In a draft class lacking that kind of consensus number one quarterback, Malik Willis appeared to be that guy. You'll notice my nice little thumbnail has him as quarterback one, but there's a question mark after it. Everyone fell in love with Willis's tools. He's one of these toolsy, modern, in a way, quarterbacks in that sense because of his arm strength, his ability to improvise, his mobility, ability to create plays after the play is broken down, in addition to his arm strength, something which is incredibly trendy in the NFL right now. However, Willis's evaluations proved divisive as people have dug into his tape a bit more often and they've sort of found out the negative sides of his game. Like my Desmond Ridder video, this is going to focus largely on the positives, but the data gives us a nice picture of kind of who Willis is as a player before we get to the positive take. His arm is reflected by the Zebra technology tracking numbers from the 2022 Senior Bowl. Willis had the highest initial air ball speed at 75.7 miles per hour. He also had the highest average air ball speed at 51 miles per hour. This was also backed up at the combine, his arm strength, where he led all quarterbacks in the class, hitting 60 miles per hour on the velocity throws. His Pro Football Focus heat map, which is found inside their excellent draft guide, reflects the kind of challenges that coaching Willis is going to represent in the NFL and why he is still kind of a project and there's scary elements to his game. This big blue area of the short middle to intermediate middle and even deep middle is really concerning, right? Why is he not targeting that area of the field? Well, Liberty did things in terms of not running routes there, but then even when they did run routes there, he just didn't see them. Like, he'd go through his progression and for whatever reason wouldn't throw the ball. Why that is something teams will have been wanting to figure out. It's not just like from a Seahawks perspective, Russell Wilson, where he turned down the kind of intermediate middle areas. The real concerning things was where he turns down open deep posts or doesn't throw leverage. He really did seem to have to see stuff come open. Now, in that same Pro Football Focus draft guide, they had Willis's big time throw percentage at 10.3%, which ranked third best amongst all college quarterbacks in 2021. And he is a guy who will hit those deep sideline shots with his arm talent, but also they're the sort of throws he makes regularly because he's turning down the kind of deep middle areas of the field. As a result, as this chart from Pro Football Focus Ben Lindsay, which he tweeted out, shows, Willis is a guy who holds the ball for a while, which again, that's kind of similar to Russell Wilson, even if Wilson's average time to throw was improved last season. But Willis holds the ball for a while, yet has a high average depth of target. Here's how he compared to the rest of the draft class, right in the top right of this chart. That kind of sink or swim playmaking style is reflected also in ESPN's data on sack rate on 3rd and 6+ yards, which is a way of defining a really obvious pass-first situation. Willis's sack rate here was 30%. The highest previously in the final collegiate season was Marcus Mariota at 16.7%. So that's an incredible number, really. Now, there's other factors at play here, such as Liberty's patchy offensive line as well. But there are occasions where Willis, whose scrambling ability is like he had 1,822 rushing yards over the last 2 seasons and 27 rushing touchdowns, he looks to run where it's not there. He could throw the ball away. He could execute plays within the structure. When you're swimming in that situation, he's improvised into a crazy good play. Regardless of all these factors as well, his tools, so his arm talent and on top of his mobility and improvisation skills, is something that you can't ignore in the evaluation, and why, if you give him the right situation to go into, he's a really promising prospect. First up, we have this play against Syracuse, and I've included this one just to show the kind of level of arm that Willis has. Now, Liberty, they ran a ton of concepts to the field, which in college is obviously wider because of the college hash marks being wider. It's a lot of space to throw into. It's not typical for a guy to be able to make these throws. Willis obviously can. This is a very tricky concept, like an RPO play to the field. He's reading the front side or back side, depending on how you look at it, linebacker, and the block gets blown. But because Willis has the arm talent, the ball still gets there before this can get jumped. And in actual fact, the receiver manages to eke out the yards, but his arm talent, even when a play should have been a bad result, it still got them out of situations. This is another kind of questionable-ish play design that doesn't work out as they'd have intended. It's also Willis making a mistake himself, really. It took him a while in this game against Syracuse to figure out the kind of two read or palms with the corner jumping into the flat cover two pass defense that they're running. The cornerback did a great job here presenting Willis as he's looking at it as though he's playing deep and not playing this out route. He's also holding off the vertical route for the deep half safety. Willis tried to throw the out. It gets jumped. However, again, because he has such arm strength, the corner's not going to be able to make a play on the football. It's outside of where the corner can reach. And again, really, this play action, it means it takes a lot longer for this concept to play out. It really does kind of impact how difficult this throw to the field is on the out. Having the fake like buck sweep with the quarterback invert keeper up the middle, it doesn't help matters. Here's a 3rd and 5 versus Ole Miss, showing Willis's arm strength showing up when he's in a situation where he's forced to throw off his back foot. Obviously, you don't want to be in that area, but occasionally, especially when under pressure, it's going to happen. Willis is under serious pressure here. He's got this boundary hitch fade, like smash-esque or Hoss. It's sticky tight press man coverage. He's trying to ensure the completion here while also having these defenders bearing down on him, trying to pick up the first down. He buys himself just enough time, knows where to go with the football for the completion, stays poised under intense pressure, and gets the ball out with enough power after the play fake and all of that stuff to get the completion and the first down. Here we have a 1st and 10 versus Eastern Michigan and Liberty's bowl game versus them. This is basically a play action wide cross concept. Willis knows where he wants to go with the football pre-snap, the out route versus the kind of leverage is being shown. However, after the play fake, his front side edge gets beaten and he knows his out route's coming open versus the off inside leverage safety. And so he buys himself enough time in the pocket to access the throw. He steps backwards and hops this one in there for the completion. The receiver doesn't have to come back to it. It's got plenty of arm. It actually ends up giving the receiver the chance to turn around and start winning leverage and getting more yak. Here now we have some of the rare kind of almost unicorn moments of him throwing over the middle. Down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, he also had a few intermediate middle kind of throws. This is a nice little kind of preordained slant where he's hard looking into the swing route to make the underneath zone expand and widen to create room for the slant. But it's an accurate throw on time into the zone hole of the drop 8 cover 3 defense. And again, because it's on time, accurate, the receiver has the opportunities to create yards after the catch. Next up, we have a play versus UMass. On the 2nd and 10, Willis hits the dagger concept versus a pressure coverage. He's a bit late here and he's a big-time tapper of the football to try and sync up his mechanics in terms of his upper and lower body. However, oftentimes when he taps the football is when you'd like the ball to be out. I think here he's worried about this middle underneath defender potentially jumping the route and the throw. So he wants his dig route to clear that. However, really the ball could be thrown a tick earlier because the kind of vertical route of the dagger combination is holding this deep middle player. By the time Willis throws it, the deep middle player almost makes a play on the football. That being said, Willis's accuracy, throwing it away and low from the deep middle player, also away from this underneath player that I was speaking about. It gets the job done, gets the completion. Once more, nice whip on the throw. The pocket gets a bit shrunk, but he still manages to step into it enough to get it onto those targets. On this same drive, kind of turned into a 2-minute drill, we have Willis hitting a deep post route, something I wish he'd done more often, but beautiful that he can do it. To me, this looks like a preordained shot play, the way that, again, he's hard looking off into the flat and whatever the heck this route is from the receiver. It's as though they're trying to fake like it's going to be thrown to the running back on a swing screen and this receiver's out there stalk blocking. It gets the cornerback's eyes in the backfield and enables the post route to beat the corner across the face. Willis then lofts a beautiful football for the post route. The end zone angle's pretty here. Lovely trajectory on that football, nice height, and unfortunate the receiver couldn't come down with it, but Willis gave him every chance. So I mentioned Willis's ability and production as a runner. He is incredibly slippery and sudden. He doesn't actually look as fast as he ends up being, and he countless times caught defenders out with his combination of contact balance and the kind of juke moves. It's a very unique running style, really. It has been comped to Lamar Jack. That kind of slippery, sudden juke moves with the pad level is there. But there's shades of all good runners, Colin Kaepernick elements, a few Cam Newton elements. Essentially, he's his own player. What's nice about him is his ability to play make on the run as a thrower as well. Now, he could do a better job of keeping his eyes downfield in general, but here's some plays showing what he can do on the move. This is not a 4th and 1 situation versus Ole Miss. The clock is wrong. Willis booting to the field to his left, which is difficult. It's just a classic flood route combination. He's got this safety playing off. He can see that the cornerback to the perimeter has his hips turned with the vertical route. He ain't going to be making a play on this out route. Willis could throw it a touch sooner, but he gets back into his stance well, good throwing position, and his arm makes up for him being a tick late with the football, absolutely zips it in there to his receiver for the completion and the first down. Here we have an actual 2nd and 20, the clock's right. It's a play action where they get pressure into the teeth of the play action, basically kills the downfield concept's chances. I think they were trying to throw a post-wheel combination to the boundary. Willis escapes the pocket at the right time. The running back's cut block did just enough to enable him to get the edge here. He knows that his receiver is going to improvise and run across the middle of the field, and he keeps his eyes down the field. And then on the run, he delivers an accurate ball to where his receiver can get it, because bearing in mind, this defender is actually in decent coverage position, plastering this receiver over the top. But there's an element of touch, and it is thrown low and away to where his receiver can get the ball on the run. He's also very calm with how he handles this. He does not look panicked or rushed. Going back to that UMass 2-minute drill, you can see how Willis on the run incorporates elements of clever arm angle work as well. They've gone down to the goal line. They again are going to roll Willis away to the left, so he's tasked with throwing across his body, and they're leaking their H-back or sniffer or Y-off guy into the corner of the end zone. He's wide open, but Willis is able to pull his hips around and then hop into this, and this ball's right in stride to the tight end. An accurate touchdown throw, even if he was wide open. He made it look easier than that throw is. Here we have a sprint out versus UMass. Concept lots of teams run versus an off cornerback like this, where they'll just have a comeback from the 1. They'll do it off play action as well. That includes the Seahawks. Willis on the run, he has this interior penetration, but with his arm angle, he's able to almost throw it to first base here, kind of a baseball style throw to his receiver, has plenty of arm to get out there. Willis really did give UMass the business. This is a run pass option play, which as soon as Willis decided to pass, should have been dead on arrival, because the defense just had a better call out there. They had this edge pressure, which is killing the play. However, Willis somehow made both of them miss with his quick slips. Real strength there at the end. Then the burst of acceleration to get away from the other pursuing defenders and access the corner and where the space is. And the poise to keep the eyes downfield and recognize I've got a receiver coming open in the back of the end zone here. And it's a beautiful little lofted pass. Makes it look effortless on the run. Eastern Michigan, here's that like the sprint out concept, but from bootleg that I was saying NFL teams run. Rolls out, easy throw versus the off-horner to the field, bang, on time, on the run, reset his feet because he had the time to, and he did check the corner route, wasn't there because the corner's sinking, so the receiver doesn't have to wait too long for that, and he's able to get more yardage. Here's another play against Eastern Michigan, and this is the improv kind of element. It's also some of the negatives, right? The defense is posing a look where the dig route with the good throw is open. The slot defender tries to bump it, doesn't chase it too far inside. The safety has good footwork on it and is playing kind of top down, and he doesn't get taken out of this top down position. But realistically, Willis with a good on target throw should be able to beat the defender across the face towards the dig. With an adherence to the structure of the play, you'd step up into this pocket and bang, the ball's out as the guy's turning face you. Instead, he doesn't like that, and his blindside edge is starting to get beat at the moment where he needs to decide, I'm stepping up and throwing this, or I'm escaping. He picks escape. Bearing in mind, this is a 1st and 10 as well. He's able to backdoor spin away from the edge, and his boundary receiver on the outside had run a comeback. So as Willis escapes, this boundary receiver who'd been working back to the football, as though he was running that comeback still, he was able to beat his cornerback. As the cornerback broke down, he was able to get back down the field vertical and create separation. Willis, after breaking the pocket in a lot of time, was pointing that receiver there because he knew where he wanted to go the football to. And this is a nuts throw, lofted. The cornerback's able to recover on the play because he knows I need to just plaster my guys. Even with him throttling downhill, he immediately knows the error. It's just a stupid good throw from Willis right down the red line, and his receiver's able to come down with the football. He also got a defensive pass interference flag. Now, a criticism I haven't really understood of Willis is that lack of touch. People have said that. Now, I've seen a lack of timing over the middle, as I spoke about, where he's late on stuff, but I mean, some of these plays already have been littered with vertical touch. He has it over the middle too. It's just when you're late over the middle on timing patterns like slants, curls, then it looks like you're not throwing a touch because the receiver's away from where the ball's going. Where his touch does best show up, though, is on the vertical throws. Now, there's no moon ball like Russell Wilson's moon ball. That is TM. I'm surprised he hasn't trademarked that or tried to trademark that. That's his deal, right? But Willis does have the ability to throw. Showed it at the Senior Bowl, especially in the one-on-ones. Beautiful arcing footballs. His job at Liberty was made harder because his receivers didn't win the red line as reliably. I doubt it was as big an emphasis as it will be in the NFL. But with NFL hash marks and NFL receiving talent, think of like a Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, they can go up and get that football and win the red line. I think his vertical touch and ability to throw high trajectory footballs into the bucket is going to shine. This is kind of like the kind of example of that. Like, he gets given more of a red line because of the cut split, the route down the seam, and him being into the far hash of the route. And look, this ball's placed away from the safety where only his receiver can get it. His receiver doesn't complete the catch, but really, he gave him every chance to. He also beat the safety there. That's a perfect football versus the trailing defender. And to me, this looks just like a sideline go ball in the NFL to the boundary. Another Ole Miss play here. This is kind of illustrating my point of receivers not necessarily being told to win the red line. They're just sort of trying to run deep. Defenders way in phase, but once more, nice height on the football from Willis and giving his receiver the chance to get it. Just a harder throw because there's just no room. The route ain't there, but that's the shot play. Same deal here again. Receiver doesn't really win the red line, doesn't really box out, but beautiful to the field, lofted football with touch and accuracy, and he's given his receiver the chance to go up and get this football even though the defender's in perfect position and the receiver. Here's the final Ole Miss example, and we actually get a catch. So yep, he did complete some of these, almost like the reverse of the last play, right? This time it's to the right in the field. It's on a stop-go route. Receiver does not win the red line, but because of the trajectory of the football and how high and touch-laden the throw is, his receiver is able to go up and get this vertically. DB finds it hard to track where the ball is because of the height and make a play on it. It's only where his receiver can get it despite the very narrow amount of space. Perfect little throw. This is a really interesting example versus UMass. He has this slot go or fade route dialed up, kind of another Hoss type of example, the hitch outside and the slot fade. So a lot more room for him to throw this football. He's getting drop 8, cover 3 from UMass, and I mean, I'm sure this isn't how they wanted it to play out, but this is perfect with enough zip to beat the deep safety, but also right into his receiver's path, right? The receiver doesn't have to slow up for this one. It's right in his stride for the over-the-shoulder bucket catch, and this is the difference between like a deep completion, right? Taking advantage of poor coverage play versus a touchdown. If you look at his weight transfer, it's very aesthetically pleasing, right? His cleats are in the ground, he shifts in a controlled manner, and he steps into throws. Kind of like watching a good golfer's swing. He's also aware of his front side edge and that he can't fully step into this one, but he still has enough to get it done. Here's another stop and go, this time in the high red zone. Once more, you can see that lock. This is only where his receiver can get it. The height and the accuracy means hard for the defensive back to make a play on the football, hard for him to track it and recover, but also where his receiver can get it right, like right in that spot of the end zone. Bad drop, got the defensive pass interference, should have been a touchdown. In the NFL, that translates. Looking at the Syracuse game again, here's a pressure beater versus cover 0. Knows where his clear one-on-one is into the, well, it's not into the boundary, but it's kind of the short side. And lofted, where his receiver can get it, catchable football, pulled in, pressure beater. Draws Syracuse offside here with his cadence, sees this safety kind of creeping down maybe. Perfectly placed. The defender's actually in pretty good over-the-top leverage when he throws it, but because of the placement, the height on the football, the trajectory, nice touchdown catch for his receiver, very catchable target. This is kind of nuts accuracy, kind of a fake screen concept versus Troy to the stalk blocker who's acting as though he's going to go block the cornerback and then ain't. Ends up being like a wheel type of route. This is gorgeous versus, it's like a cover 2 defensive concept, and he beats the wheel carrying defender beneath the half safety enough so that he can't make a play on the football. Is accurate on time and right in stride of his receiver as a special throw. This is the thing, his tape is full of these kind of NFL touch throws. Now, it's not just touch, right? The raw power is still there on the deep stuff. The best place this shows up is into the honey hole of cover 2, so behind the cloud cornerback, but beneath and outside the half safety. This, frankly, versus UMass is an early in the game, I'm better than you I'm better than you. Whatever defense you run, I'm better than you. So sorry about that, but you can't stop me. You can break down the intricacies of the concept here, and do you know what? He shouldn't have done this. He should have done this, right? However, as he opens to his flat route, the corner looks as though he's throttling down. His hip position is suggesting he's jumping. The corner does a good job recovering with Willis's eyes, and it's at this point Willis really probably should go back into the flat. Instead, he's crazy talented. He won't be able to get to wear this as much in the NFL, but bang, this is a tight window bullet. Now, the Syracuse game, I said it took him a while to figure out this kind of two-read deal, and the fact that the corner was jumping. Once he did, though, he kind of threw them out of cover two concept entirely. Here to the boundary, he has this stop-and-go route and a half safety working over the top of the cover two cornerback. This is nuts again, beating the half safety into the boundary. Not much space for the half safety to have to cover. Only one receiver for the half safety to have to work over the top of. Perfect. Where his receiver can get the ball. There's not much space for this throw to come in, and yet zipped in there. Nice loft on it as well. And this is an even crazier throw. This is the kind of two-read beater. So you can see defense out here trying to disguise their shell, but essentially the cornerback, he's going to break on two if two is out within 5 yards. Earlier in the game, Willis would have thrown the out route and it would have got jumped, and yeah, he had the special arm talent to avoid it being a pick because he got there so fast, but it weren't the right read. Here though, the corner is trying to hold off the vertical route, and the safety has worked over the top of it magnificently. You could even say it's not the best concept to be running here. We need a different cover 2 beater. Now, you can question why they didn't have a different one, like something over the middle, but that's not the point here. The half safety, Willis has, in terms of the throw taking longer to arrive, he has very little margin for error here. This is like the decision to throw this into the honey hole is risky. But again, he's just better than you. He's able to access this tiny amount of space. It's bang on target. The receiver slows down as though he's almost not expecting the football, but because he slows down, he's right in the zone hole. And my word, right on time, right between the two defenders. Absolutely crazy. And a beautiful sort of cracking forward motion from the end zone angle that you can see where he plants his foot and drives this throw into the space. Finally, we have this Eastern Michigan play, another honey hole beater where it breaks the camera. The camera doesn't understand Willis's throw here. He has 2 vertical routes to the outside, so the safety is somewhat held by the number 2 receiver being on a vertical as well. There's really not much room for this throw still, and it is again to the field, the wide side, so the ball's naturally going to take a bit longer to get there, but bang, right into the space. The receiver actually then come down with the catch. He could have done, perhaps should have done. It's just crazy to place this only where his receiver can get it on time in such tight space. To illustrate my point about timing and touch, here are throws where Willis is on time into the intermediate. Because he's on time, the ball comes out perfectly. Here he knows he's getting this boundary one-on-one, and a pressure concept is what he ends up receiving. So the one-on-one route's good, takes his step back in the pocket, waits for his receiver to get out the break, and then bang, right into the receiver's hands for the pressure beater. Versus UMass, this is a slant route thrown to the field with an RPO. As soon as he executes the run fake, the read part of the element, feet in the ground, bang, to the slant, right into the receiver, down the middle, giving him the two-way go, the option to break outside or inside. Accurate and on time. This versus a Syracuse pressure with a one-on-one outside to the field. Once more, it's a play action this time, but he executes the play fake in the pistol formation, gets back into his drop, foot in the ground, bang, strike delivered to the outside hitch on time once more, perfectly in rhythm. This is kind of the same deal, but from the gun. It's another clear one-on-one on the outside. The play fake's a bit messed up because of the pressure. Foot in the ground, bang, delivered on time. Two-way go once more to his receiver, who breaks the first tackle and gets real yak. To finish with the film, I just wanted to include this clip versus Eastern Michigan. It's my belief that essentially in the NFL, Willis he's going to need sort of training wheels where he's allowed to develop. Now, in the right situation, the best way to develop is by playing. What Philadelphia's done with Jalen Hurts is an interesting approach. I think mixing in some of the RPO elements to Willis's game might be a thing. But say if he was in somewhere like Seattle, if you just run the football, right? Run the football well, but give Willis these preordained shots, 2 one-on-ones on the outside, where you know you're going to get to clear one-on-one. He can make one-on-one beating throws. This is a play where he has this deep over route, he has pressure in his face, backpedaling away from the pressure, running back in the pocket, and he's still able to loft it over everyone right in stride to the receiver. which again, crazy arm talent. You can do so much with the arm talent, and then when the play breaks down, his ability to improvise. There's real stuff to work on. Like, I haven't mentioned, for instance, how he shortens his drop in the pocket and his pocket mechanics requiring work. The field vision, especially the deep bindle stuff, is an issue. But like I said, if you give him these kind of right shot plays to take, quick game favored like all hitches deal rather than like, for instance, stick, but you find what sort of outside the numbers quick game stuff he can do, he should be effective. Like, I don't see why he wouldn't be effective, especially where you've got talent on your offense like the Seahawks do. He would be more like a Russell Wilson kind of player in terms of his flaws and strengths. He will score highly in stuff like completion percentage over expectation because he attempts the so-called difficult throws down the sideline, and he passes up the so-called easier, wider separation structure throws over the intermediate to deep kind of middle areas. If you're an NFL team and you've drafted Willis, you kind of need to look at what the Seahawks did with Russell, but it's more extreme than that. He has more apparent flaws, obviously. They're not the same player, so don't get that twisted. Thank you so much for watching this video breakdown. Please do like it, subscribe to it. Sorry that it's come out a bit later than anticipated. However, I hope this was detailed enough for you.